What's going on, guys? So I have a bit of a dilemma, and that's related to a poll that I recently ran on the community section of my channel, asking you all what you felt would be a really good video series on, various topics that I think would be, directly related to what my channel talks about. And the one that was absolutely on top in terms of poll results was using a half-ton truck in the manner of a 3/4 ton or 1 ton. So let's talk about that and some of the challenges this poses. Hang tight, I'll be right back. All right, so that clearly is the winner. That's the one everyone wants me to do, and I think mainly because most people think I have something against half-ton trucks, which, believe it or not, I absolutely don't. I think half-ton trucks are absolutely a great vehicle when you're using it for the way it was designed to be used. And some people automatically look at one number and they think that that's what you base everything off of. So let's talk a little bit about this specific type of evaluation. If I decide to do it, what truck would be best for it and some of the limitations that I might have to deal with. So first of all, brand. Right, anytime we talk about a half-ton truck, people are going to have a specific brand that they favor. The 4 big brands that I think most people gravitate towards would be the Toyota Tundra, the Chevy Silverado, or GMC Sierra. I'm going to clump those together since they're pretty much the same truck. The Ram, as well as the Ford F-150. And when you look at these trucks, they're all similar, but very different in their own way. And when I say very different, for instance, Ford is the only one that offers a true, what's considered to be a heavy-duty payload package version of that truck, which means when you get the max tow option in certain engine transmission configurations, you can spec that truck with what's called the HDPP, heavy-duty payload package. And when you get that specific package, it gives you a significantly higher cargo capacity as well as the ability to max out your towing capacity, which sounds really good, right? It sounds like that's the option you want to go for. What some people don't realize is even though that truck can be spec'd up to have like 2,600 pounds worth of cargo capacity, depending on the trim that you buy that truck in, as well as whether it's in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive and the engine option, the max cargo capacity on that truck could be as low as 1,900 pounds. So again, you can't just say, I'm going to select that box and all of a sudden my truck's going to have this magical 2,600 and change pound cargo capacity. And then again, when you also look at towing capacity, the towing capacity, depending on the cab configuration and the drive, whether it's 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, and your engine choice, can have anywhere between a 9,800 pound maximum towing capacity all the way up to above 13,000 pounds. But Ford is arguably the only one that offers that heavy-duty payload package option, or essentially the option for you to have that much, much higher payload package, the ability to carry more weight over the back axle of the truck. So naturally, if you wanted to test out the most capable half-ton truck in terms of payload and towing capacity, that's going to be the truck you gravitate towards. The challenge with it is, if you're a Ram fan or if you're a GM fan, you're not really going to have that option. Now, let's talk about what Ram has to offer. They have some very, very capable half-ton trucks in terms of overall towing and even payload capacity. But because they use a coil-sprung rear suspension, you oftentimes are going to sacrifice the stance. The Ram trucks tend to squat a bit more when you load them up with weight. And part of that is because of the focus on ride comfort. Most people with half-ton trucks aren't going to be subjecting them to weight like you typically would a 3/4 ton or a 1 ton truck, especially when you're talking like commercial fleets. And because of that, they've really focused on making the ride quality the priority. So you have really, really, really great comfort in terms of ride quality, but you sacrifice a little bit of stoutness in terms of being able to handle rear weight better, and the truck tends to slouch a little bit. Because of that, and because of the coil sprung suspension and how it's progressively rated, you tend to have a bit of a bouncier ride. Now, in terms of GM is very similar to Ford in how they still use a traditional leaf-sprung rear suspension. They tend to be a little bit more on the firm side whenever it comes to towing or even just driving in general, and that would be a much better comparison against something like an F-150. Plus, General Motors generally touts that their rear suspension doesn't sag as much under load. So if I had to basically pick a truck, it would really be between Ford or General Motors. whether it's a GMC or a Chevy, because in the class of truck or the trim package I'd be looking for, it really wouldn't matter which one it was. It would just be a relatively low trim package because I'd want to get as much payload capacity as possible. Now, that also said, when you up to a higher trim package, which a lot of people generally have with a half-ton truck, those features, those amenities can really severely impact the overall payload capacity, even if you have Ford with its heavy-duty payload package equipped truck. And just because you, the viewer, a certain viewer, may be fine with a work trim package or work truck package with, bare amenities, not having all the things that people might typically want, all you care is that base package. You're not everybody, and other people might want a higher spec vehicle so they can have something a little bit more luxurious. When you get the heavy-duty payload package, you're often going to be limited to what luxury trim you can get on that vehicle. So when you're not using it to haul an RV or a heavy trailer, it's likely that you're going to take the risk that you have to go with a lower package vehicle. So just things to keep in mind. Now, once we start talking about half-ton capability, one thing I've always told folks, that those higher towing numbers coupled with kind of, relatively low payload capacity, let's say 1,500, 1,600 pound payload capacity, but with a 12,000 pound towing capacity, that's ultimately designed for trailers that have a lot of the weight resting over the axle and very slightly forward of the axles, basically transitioning most of the weight to the trailer with maybe 10% of it transferring to the truck itself. And a lot of times those numbers are not based on a family of 4 inside of the vehicle, they're based on one person in the vehicle, relatively lightly loaded. You don't have a lot of cargo in the vehicle either. So if you have a 10,000 pound trailer and you're transferring 10% to your truck, which would equal about 1,000 pounds worth of tongue weight, well, you take a person, you take the hitch, you take all the things you may bring with you in the vehicle, you still may be well under what the maximum payload capacity of that truck is. But the minute you start adding a lot of people, supplies, especially with an RV where you load a lot of it to the front of the RV, batteries, propane tanks, things like that, you're going to find that you're going to run out of cargo capacity very quickly. So again, if you are picking a half-ton truck for the purpose of hauling utility trailers, flat deck trailers, cargo trailers that you can move the weight and position it specifically to avoid too much tongue weight going on the truck or too much tongue weight coming off of the truck, then a half-ton truck can be extremely capable in terms of how much trailer you can tow. And again, all trailers tow differently. The one variable that really applies to RVs is how it was built and where they put the furniture, the tanks, things like that, where things are going to be placed on the trailer itself. All this said, whenever I decide to get a truck, a half-ton truck, to start doing this evaluation, I have to take all of this into consideration. Availability of the certain truck I'm looking for is going to be a big one. Do I want to buy a brand new truck, or do I want to go slightly used? And then if I'm looking for a Ford with a heavy-duty payload package, am I even going to find one? Anytime I do the build tool on the dealership websites and they show me what's inbound to dealerships, none of them have that package. And if I specifically am looking for one at a dealership lot, who knows what I'm going to find, and who knows what condition it's in, how many miles it's going to have, or how old it is, and what potential problems exist. I'm not looking for a truck that I'm going to get into with a lot of mechanical problems, or potentially a lot of mechanical problems. I would want something that I can go straight to testing with, something straight to evaluating. And then that takes me to the next point. Let's say I can find the truck I'm looking for with all the features, specs, and amenities. The challenge that I may have is, what scenario am I willing to actually subject this truck to towing tests and payload tests that's safe? I'm not going to be like some channels that might take a truck that shouldn't be on the road towing something that it shouldn't be towing just to make a video. That's not what my channel's about. I always want it to be safe. I want to focus on towing safety. So thankfully, we have a big enough piece of property now that I can actually tow it around the property and give you guys a pretty good evaluation of what it's going to be like over normal driving conditions as well as more adverse driving conditions. The challenge I won't be able to replicate for the most part would be sway, and I won't be able to replicate sway based on a longer travel trailer. What do I mean by that? If I'm hauling my dump trailer and I load my dump trailer up to 10,000 or 12,000 pounds gross trailer weight, basically maximizing as much weight as I can without going crazy, and I hitch it up to a pickup truck, a lot of people would think, well, if I balance some of the weight towards the hitch and I kind of emulate what it would be like weight-wise to haul this trailer, well, that's a good representation of what it's like to haul a 10 or 12,000 pound travel trailer. A lot of you folks will absolutely realize that the profile of a travel trailer at 10 to 12,000 pounds is significantly different than the profile of a dump trailer. A dump trailer like mine has a 19,000 pound gross trailer weight rating, whereas the cargo capacity on it is pretty high. It's about 7,000 pounds because we've derated it. But will that replicate a travel trailer? No, it won't. It won't replicate a travel trailer because a travel trailer is not going to be 14 feet long at 10,000 pounds. Most travel trailers will be upwards of 36 to 38 feet long at 10 to 12,000 pounds. And they're going to be significantly higher, upwards of 3 times higher and possibly wider. And they're going to have weight in different areas. So no matter how much I set up my dump trailer, it's never truly going to replicate what an RV or a travel trailer would be like at that same weight, whether it's overall trailer weight or pin weight. So my dump trailer is a good example of weight and how it can manage it in terms of strength, but it's certainly not going to show you what it's like in terms of how wind impacts it. And my property is not large enough to actually show some of that as well in terms of sway. So I have to determine what is going to be the best way to represent weight as well as sway, because the two have to work hand in hand for it to be a fair and honest evaluation. Now, some folks will say grab the black cargo trailer I have, but that's only a 20-foot trailer. 24 feet if you calculate the tongue on the front, or the A-frame up front, which again is going to be roughly 10 to 15 feet shy of the length of a travel trailer that weighs 10 to 12,000 pounds. So there's going to be a lot of limitations to doing this. And some folks will say, well, just go to a dealership lot and borrow, a 36 to 38 foot RV and use their RV to do these tests, which is an option. It's something worth considering. But if I tell you all that I don't think it's safe to do that, why would I take an RV that large out and do it? Does that make sense? I don't want to basically say, just for the sake of making content, I'm going to do something that I advise you all is unsafe to do, just so I can make content showing you why you shouldn't do it. So these are all things I have to keep in mind, and I want your feedback. Please let me know, what do you think? What truck should I look at realistically, not the dream unicorn truck that you can't find, but what truck should I look at? What trailer should I look at? And what type of tests can I practically do in a safe manner? Anyways, guys, I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.